Yep, made that mistake. Oh! I had it in his mouth. No.
Chasing man, you show us how to perform. Well, your style's been changed because we're so vain, but you'll take a sunset for stone. Look out, honey, you're bad, bad, bad. Here you come, said you're bad, bad, bad. Sing for a time, you're the hottest ticket in town. Well, you show us new moves, cause baby, you're smooth, you're above us.
Well, get those life vests zipped and clipped, strap down those rods, and stow away those tackle bags because we are going fishing. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bass to Anglers podcast. I'm your host, Keith Nicewonger, and I hope this episode finds you with 5 for 25 in your live well. A fish story is defined by Webster's Dictionary as an extravagant or incredible tale. It's no wonder these stories are often told by anglers whose account of a day fishing might be embellished due to exposure to heat, cold, or just an overactive imagination. In this episode, South Carolina pro Britt Myers shares a fish story with you that you're not going to want to miss. But first, if you like the content we produce in this channel, please hit the subscribe button. I'll wait for you. Thank you. We are building our viewership, and your follow means a lot to us. We'd also love to hear from you, so leave us a comment and let us know the kind of stuff that you want us to produce. We are the Western representatives for Ducket Fishing, pro-driven rods, reels, and baits. Ducket is building a Western presence, and if you haven't seen it yet, you soon will. New independent dealerships popping up all the time. Ducket Fishing. You know these guys, the strongest pro staff in all professional tournament fishing. And it is these same pros that design and test the rods, reels, and baits that Ducket Fishing is known for. Find out about the Ducket lineup of pro-driven products by going to their website, ducketfishing.com. It's a tough call to determine what anglers are better at, the catching or the storytelling. Personally, I've always enjoyed a good story myself. Much of the bass fishing world understands that Paulie Elias put the A-rig on the map with his dominating win at Lake Guntersville in October of 2011. For those that haven't seen or heard that story, it's quite incredible. That event, however, resulted in a mad scramble by anglers all over the place to come up with A-rigs. Many anglers had to put together their own version of an A-rig just so that they would have one. South Carolina Bass Pro Britt Myers, about a week after the Paulie Elias tournament win, found himself looking for an A-rig to take into an event on his home water, Lake Wiley. His story is pretty cool. You're going to enjoy this. a fascinating story about the A-rig. Now, the A-rig is something that is such a good lure, or was such a good technique, that the big tournament organizations don't even allow them to be used. You were right there at the beginning of the whole thing, and you've got a great A-rig story I'd like you to share with us.
So this week, the Riders Conference, we're here in Gunnersville Lake, and if you guys remember, Paul Elias absolutely destroyed the field fishing an A-rig. He was the only guy who started the tournament with an A-rig. That's a whole nother story. I told him he's got to get Paul Elias on here
and do that.
And tell you that story. It's one of the best stories I've ever heard. Well, anyway, why this story is going on, or why this tournament's going on, and Paul Elias is like lapping the field, the whole world is talking about the A-rig. And just so happened, just a few days from that day, we had the biggest annual event on our home lake, which is...
What year would this be?
Oh, man, I don't know what year that was. I don't even want to guess. I can remember it like it's yesterday, but it was... let's say 8-9 years ago.
Okay.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah.
Like we said earlier, time flies when you're having fun. But anyway, so we couldn't find an A-rig. We wanted to have one just to try it on our home lake. You never thrown one before type deal. And so we went to Bass Pro Shops, okay, and literally walked the aisles to try to figure out how we could make an A-rig. And this is like 3 days before the big tournament I'm telling you about. So we go, I'm looking around and I find some leader. I really don't know what the A-rig's made out of.
Yeah.
There were rumors. I don't know if you remember this. People were making them out of what's the mixing? Like a mixing deal. Looks like wire.
Solder? No, not solder.
No, for mixing like food.
Like an egg beater?
Yes.
Pulling the prongs out of it.
Yes. I mean, there were.
That could be. I could see some old guys out there.
There were stories, but anyway. So I have personally never held, touched, even knew what gauge wire or anything, but obviously I had to figure out what could hold like a half-ounce hook, a jig head or something like that. So I found this leader wire. I don't know if it was 500 pound or whatever it was, but it was like steel wire. We found some big swivels and some crappie corks about 3 inches long. And what we did is we cut the crappie corks, cut a slit in it, sanded all the orange off of them. Okay. We took the wire and we stuck through the swivel, and we twist, and hid that ugly mess inside the crappie cork. And we had 5 wires, and we made our homemade Alabama rig. Well, the next day we go out to practice, and I go out to an offshore spot, which is, places I fished for years, and I knew where a school of fish was, and I had certain crankbaits which I felt like was the best bait, other people didn't have, like custom crankbaits and stuff. And I remember the first school, I made a bunch of casts and caught one. So, okay, no, that's not too bad because it's a tough tournament. And right before I left that spot, I picked up the Alabama rig and I threw it out there. And it was like, I think it was 5 half-ounce jig heads.
That's a heavy deal.
Oh, yeah. And it was probably too heavy, but I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? It actually, when it hit the water, made this god-awful commotion, and it fell to the bottom. And I didn't even click the handle one time, and I had like 2 solid fish. And I was pretty ecstatic, but at the same time, I was like, I've caught doubles there before. It's not the biggest thing ever. So I kind of just wrote it off. And I immediately pull the trolling motor up, and I would go to the next spot, and I don't find some fish, and I throw my crankbait and didn't catch one. And I'm like, And I really, with no energy, positive energy, I just made another cast with it. I threw it out there, and it hit the bottom, and I just creeked it 2, 3, 4, and boom, caught 2 more. And they were like 3-pounders. I'm like, this tournament's probably going to take 15 to 16 pounds to win. And so, we autoed around, found some more fish, didn't think much about it. And the next day, was the big tournament. And we were getting excited then because we only made 2 casts and caught 4 fish. I'd only made 2 casts and caught 4 fish. So then we go out there the day of the tournament.
It's a buddy event?
It's a buddy event.
Okay.
I got a friend of mine. His name's Gene Webster. He's about 6'6". He's just a big old dude, and I say all that because I'm coming to the punchline here. See what happens. So we get out there and we line up on a spot. We haven't made a cast yet. I make a long cast. He makes a long cast. They both hit the water. I'm sure there's a big wake with all that weight hitting the water at the same time. We let them fall down to the bottom. And we're just creeping them. And it don't take but just a split second. I set the hook, and I'm fighting it, and I'm fighting. He sets the hook, and they're coming to the boat, and I see like 2 3.5 pounders on my bait, and I'm getting ready to flip them in. I said, "Get the net, man, get the net." I got 2, and he says, "I got 3." Like, I mean, you had to be there because he don't talk like this. Right, you know what I'm saying? Right. And we boat flipped 18 pounds of bass. Won the tournament on the first cast. It was done. We knew then it was over. And the rest of the day, you know, there was that places where the biggest fish were at, but we just smashed them all day. Never caught any because that particular spot was the best spot at the time, and it was just an incredible story. You know, and since then it's nowhere near as good like any other bait that just come out, but we really had a blast and had a good time with it.
The fish story. Call it lore, call it embellishment, call it a bunch of baloney. It's still hard not to want to listen. Britt Meyer's A-Rig story is one for the ages. It's absurd, it's extravagant, and it's incredible. Definition of a fish story. Thanks for being with us today. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Until next time, keep both hands on the wheel, and we will talk to you again very soon.